Hi, my name is Robin Wong, and in this video I want to talk about 5 commonly misunderstood camera facts, and of course I want to clarify them as well. Let's do this! Some of these misunderstandings have nothing to do with any particular camera brand. Some of them are Olympus specific. I've been receiving all these questions for many years now, and I thought I would just compile them in one place so that if I receive these questions again in the future, I can easily answer them by just showing this video. Number 1, telephoto lens versus macro lens. I've been asked many times, Robin, I have the 75-300 lens or the Olympus 40-150 lens. Since the focal lengths are very long, 150 or the 300mm end, it is definitely longer than Olympus macro lens, which is only at 60. Shouldn't these longer focal lengths on telephoto lenses do a better job at shooting macro in comparison to such a short lens like the 60mm Olympus macro? Now I understand it's so easy to get confused between what a telephoto lens can do and what a macro lens can do. The job of a telephoto lens, since it has a long focal length, is to reach subjects that is far away from you. Say that you want to shoot a bird on a tree and the bird is sitting on a branch very high up. You don't have to climb the tree to get close enough to the bird because your telephoto lens has such a massive zoom or reach. You can go all the way to 450 or 300mm and you can bring the bird closer to you and capture the shot as if you're just right in front of the bird. Now this is very different from a macro lens. The job of a macro lens is to magnify a subject that is very, very tiny and make it appear large on your screen. Now that subject can be just right in front of you. Say that you're shooting an ant or a flower or anything, or jewelry, anything that is very, very small, you just go very, very close. It allows you to go much closer to have that higher magnification power. That's what a macro lens does. It is very, very different from what a telephoto lens is doing. Therefore, I know most people are confused, but the longer the focal length does not necessarily mean that it's better at shooting macro, and a macro lens is a macro lens, and macro lens cannot be a telephoto lens. I hope you see the difference between the reach of a telephoto lens and the magnifying power of a macro lens. Number 2, overestimating the capabilities of image stabilization. I've received this email several times now. Some people ask me, hey Robin, I've seen your review on Olympus cameras, it's fantastic, you can handhold down to 5 seconds shutter speeds. I can't do that. I'm using the 75-300 and I'm using the Olympus EM1 Mark II. When I zoom in all the way to 300mm, I can't even handhold 1 second. What is happening? Now this is the case where a lot of people misunderstood. When I mentioned that I can handhold the camera down to 4 or 5 seconds, I was using wide-angle lenses. Those are actually 12mm, 7-14, 12-40 or 12-100, and typically at the wider end of the lens. And Olympus claimed that the 7 steps EV stabilization effectiveness is only applicable if you use the 12-40 f2.8 Pro. If you look at all the tests that they claim for the effectiveness of the image stabilization, even in EM1 Mark III, EM1 Mark II, EM1X, it is always either 12-100 or 12-40 Pro lens. Now, you're using 75-300. At 300N, the longer the lens is, when you're using a telephoto lens, the higher the chance of shake. Every tiny movement is much worse compared to a wide-angle lens. Even if you get that full 5-step stabilization or 7-step stabilization at 300mm N, You cannot handhold 1 second. It doesn't work that way. You can get away with 1/20th, 1/30th. That's easy, no problem. But you cannot handhold 1 second. The longer the lens is, the higher your shutter speed has to be. And it is a miracle if you can handhold 1/20th to 1/30th of a second when you're shooting at 300 mm. It is equivalent to 600 mil. Trust me, no other camera brands can do this. Only Olympus with the incredible 5-axis image stabilization can allow you to handhold at such a slow shutter speed. Number 3, all points autofocus. Some people ask, hey, I've selected all points autofocus in the camera. Does this mean everything will be in focus? You'll be surprised. When I ask this question to most people, half of them will say, yes, everything will be in focus. No, not everything will be in focus. Now, what happens when you select everything, all the focusing point at once in the camera? It simply means you're surrendering your control of autofocus to the camera. You don't care about autofocus anymore. You trust that the camera will do the right thing, and you have no control of what you want to focus. Now the camera will decide what to focus for you. Unfortunately, the camera cannot read your mind. At least at this moment, there's no camera that has direct connection to human brain. I hope that won't happen. It sounds really scary. Because the camera doesn't know what you want to focus, it will just simply pick whatever the camera wants. If the camera is doing the job right, the camera will pick the subject that's closest to the camera based on whatever algorithm that's in the autofocus system. Now, if you want full control of autofocus, then you have to manually select the focusing point and move it to exactly what you want to focus. Now, back to the original question, can I get everything in focus? Then go and study the concept of depth of field and how to control depth of field with your camera. It has something to do with aperture, it has something to do with f-number. I'm not going to go through the basics here. I've done my basics photography, how to control a camera. I'll put the link up here if you're interested to find out about how to control depth of field. Study the basics of photography. There is no shortcut. No, all points autofocus means that you are letting the camera take control, and it is very, very dangerous. Don't do that. And finally, number 4, ISO 100 or ISO low is the best ISO. No, it is not. This is a wrong assumption. It is a misunderstanding. Yes, maybe long time ago during the DSLR days, the lower the ISO, the minimum ISO is the base ISO. But these days, the base ISO, the native ISO for the camera, the best ISO setting is not necessarily the lowest. The lowest are actually extension from, say, the base ISO, which is usually 200. And for most Olympus Micro Four Thirds cameras, the base ISO is ISO 200. It gives you the best tonality, the best details, best dynamic range, best colors. You get the most optimized image from ISO 200. Anything higher or lower than ISO 200, you will lose something. Now, some people don't believe me. They go and take images with ISO 100. They come back and tell me, hey, Robin, look at the sky. There is banding in the sky. The sky is not smooth. It is like there's rainbow tearing on the sky. What's happening? I told you to use ISO 200, but you didn't use it. You used ISO 100. Now you lose dynamic range. Therefore, the sky is not smooth. It is very important to understand that there is no ISO low, ISO 100. The native ISO is ISO 200. What ISO 100 or ISO low is basically an overexposed ISO 200, and the camera will process the images to look like it is not overexposed. Get it? It is fake ISO. It is an extension ISO from the base ISO. So stay at ISO 200 to get the best results out of your camera if you can. That's all the misunderstandings and clarifications that I'm doing in this video. I hope that you've learned something or found something new that you've not known before. If you found any of them useful to you, please consider buying me a cup of coffee, or you can contribute directly to my PayPal account. I'll put the links in the descriptions below on how you can do that. Any small contribution can go a long way and definitely help me to continue making similar videos and publish them right here. If you've enjoyed watching this video, please give me a thumbs up. Please consider subscribing to this channel if you've not already done so, and I'll definitely see you again in the next one. Until then, please go out and take more photographs if you can, and always take care and stay safe. Bye-bye.